So if I was a Democrat, I'm a libertarian, but if I was a Democrat and I lived in California, I either wouldn't vote, I'd vote for Trump, I'd vote for somebody else. To send a direct message to the Democrats. You don't get my vote for free. You have to help me. You have to help my community. How in the hell are you going to call Ice Cube Uncle Tom? Because he wants to work with President Trump to make his community better. He tried to work with the Kamala campaign and also with Joe Biden. He tried. They didn't want nothing to do with him. They're like, come and see us after we're elected. Under Biden, largest number of black men incarcerated in history. Under President Trump, largest number of black men employed in history. The Democrat Party is completely taking the black vote for granted. So I implore you, Californians, please, if you haven't voted already, vote either for President Trump or for some other party, or don't vote for Biden. Democrats have taken your vote for granted for so long. Like I said, how many Biden bumper stickers have you seen? How many Biden lawn signs have you seen? How many Biden banners? How many Biden commercials have you seen? You know, it's absolutely ridiculous. I see way more Trump everything, Trump this, Trump that. President Trump wants your vote. He's done more for the black community than any other president since Lincoln. We instituted something called a DNA match, where if the person bringing these children across the border was not a DNA match as a relative, we deport the adults and we keep the child until we can find their parents. Because it is better to keep 499 children at the border waiting for a DNA match for a parent than it is to let one child through to be raped and molested for the rest of her life. Welcome back, everybody! I hope that you are having a wonderful Sunday. I know that Sunday is usually for football, but like I tell all my friends, if they're kneeling, I ain't watching. So maybe next year, at least the NBA finally got it. They're saying we're not going to put the BLM thing on our court anymore. Maybe the players will quit kneeling and people will start watching again. You know, it's like, it's a turnoff to us. We aren't watching you to be political. If you want to be political, you can watch other things. So I'm heading back from my best friend Nick's mom's house. I just replaced her dishwasher. That's what's sitting in the back seat right there. They wanted to charge her $150 to install it and $50 to dispose of the old one. And they sold her like a $40 hose and wiring kit that she didn't need, because you can use the hose kit and the wiring kit off the other unit. So anyway, took me like an hour, saved her about $240, $250 bucks. It feels nice to be able to use my mechanical construction superpowers for good. Although I'm not opposed to using them for evil. So if anybody watching needs for me to use my mechanical superpowers for something evil, let me know. I'm not opposed to being a an evil genius. Right now I'm just a marginally good genius. So, what had happened this week was we had the final debate between Joe Biden. Yeah, looked a lot like that. Didn't know where he was. He knew where he was like the first 15, 20 minutes, and then he quickly dropped off the edge of the earth, mumbling, stuttering.
I thought I heard someone say something. Spider. I thought it was Henry.
You know you're a fucking mumbling, stuttering little fuck. You know that?
Like, oh my goodness. Like, here's one thing that I've learned in my life is people that are confident in what they are saying speak very clearly and precisely, and people that don't know what the hell they're talking about, they'll kind of trail off. They do that redneck trail off into that mumble thing, like, well, I'll tell you what you need, man. I'll tell you what, you need that new carburetor, and maybe not, because they don't know. They're like, probably the carburetor, but then when you come back to them and said, dude, you put a new carburetor on my car. Well, remember how I told you, and you also might need new head gaskets, and it's like, no, you didn't say that. Well, no, remember what I said? I said, you know, it might be the carburetor, maybe the head gaskets. Or see, they always leave themselves that out. They start mumbling and stuttering. They get super quiet because no matter how long Biden has been a politician, it is ingrained in you as a child to tell the truth, which is why in poker we call it a tell. Now, when somebody whispers, like Michelle Obama's like, you guys don't understand. We need to vote for Biden. Because it is against your upbringing to lie. So whenever you are telling a lie, you are going to try to do something against your normal speaking pattern. Either you'll start mumbling or you'll speak real softly because this is how it's supposed to be, to try to make yourself more convincing. Whereas if you're telling the truth, you don't have to try to use any tricks. You don't have to mumble. You don't have to speak softly. You can just speak clearly and concisely because you want your point to get across because you are speaking the truth. So you have all these politicians using every trick in the book trying to get you to vote for Biden, and even Chelsea Handler is buying into their bull. Chelsea Handler dated 50 Cent. Chelsea Handler is adopting the Biden. If you don't vote for Biden, you ain't black BS.
You can't do that to black media.
I can't do that to white media and black media because my wife has to go on at 6 o'clock.
Okay.
I'm in trouble.
Listen, you got to come see us when you come to New York, VP Biden.
I will.
It's a long way until November. We got more questions.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
It don't have nothing to do with Trump. It has to do with the fact I want something for my community. I would love to see.
Take a look at my record, man.
Chelsea Handler went on the Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, and she's like, well, I dated 50 Cent, and actually she goes, I dated 50. I dated 50. Really? You called him 50 when you were dating? All right, I guess if you're giving up the punani, I guess you call him whatever the hell you want. We call him 50. Where I come from, we call him 50. So Chelsea Handler's like, yeah, I had to remind him that he's not allowed to vote for Donald Trump because he's black.
You're a good sport, and I don't have a good sport attitude. I'm kind of like a Scrooge when it comes to people telling me what to do on a certain day of the year. I take offense to that. You heard about my ex-boyfriend, right? 50 Cent and his support of Donald Trump.
Yeah, what's going on between you? I saw your tweets and I go, wait, what's happening? Because you said he was your favorite ex-boyfriend, and then what does he do? He's supporting Trump?
He says he doesn't want to pay 62% of taxes, which, by the way, isn't a plan of Joe Biden's. That's a lie. So he doesn't want to pay 62% of taxes because he doesn't want to go from being 50 cent to 20 cent. And I had to remind him that he was a black person, so he can't vote for Donald Trump, and that he shouldn't be influencing an entire swath of people who may listen to him because he's worried about his own personal pocketbook.
That's how much the TDS has gone to the absolute extreme. You got white women that date black men telling the black men, you ain't a black man, you vote for Donald Trump. Chelsea, were you in bed with the man? Was there anything about him that made you think that he's not a black man? He's a thug, he's a rapper, been shot about 50 times. Maybe he's like maybe 10% white. And maybe that 10% is below his belt buckle, and maybe that's why you feel like you can tell him that he ain't black. Maybe you've been with enough black men to be like, dude, you ain't black. I've seen a lot of black men. You ain't black. You better vote for Biden. You're gonna lose your black card. So I watched the debates. I thought Biden did okay for the first half hour, maybe 40 minutes, and then he really lost his step. I mean, the mumbling and stuttering and it's 10,000. It's, I mean, 100,000. I mean, a trillion. It's like, dude.
I thought I heard someone say something. Spider. I thought it was Henry.
You know you're a fucking mumbling, stuttering little fuck. You know that?
How can we trust you to negotiate? We're dealing sometimes billions of dollars, sometimes hundreds of billions of dollars, sometimes trillions of dollars, sometimes 1,300,468,387,269. And Joe Biden is going to mess that up for all of us. He's going to be like, and China's going to get all of your tax money. So that was one of the things that really bothered me, is Trump really missed a couple of key moments to just stomp Biden out. Curb stomp him. Now say goodnight. When Biden says, well, those tariffs from China, that's taxpayer money. No, that's not taxpayer money. The way tariffs work is we charge overseas companies, let's say a car manufacturer. Let's say we charge them $1,000 per car to import it into America. We take that $1,000 and we invest it in American companies to make them more competitive. The tariff that we collect from China on their imports does not come off of the average person, doesn't come out of your tax money. We don't get tax breaks because President Trump puts tariffs on China. What we do get, we get better, cheaper American products like vegetables. So what President Trump has been doing, he's taking all these tariffs from China and he's giving it to American farmers so that they can continue to grow vegetables and we can continue to purchase them at lower prices. That's how tariffs work. And Biden's like, no, you're giving away the taxpayers' money. It's not taxpayer money. The other real opportunity that President Trump had to just smash Joe Biden is when Joe Biden is talking about 500 kids at the border in cages without parents. Now, he did a great job of saying, Joe, you and Obama, you and Barry built those cages.
Children are brought here by coyotes and lots of bad people, cartels, and they're brought here, and they used to use them to get into our country. We now have as strong a border as we've ever had. We're over 400 miles of brand new wall. You see the numbers, and we let people in, but they have to come in legally, and they come in through merit.
But how will you reunite these kids with their families,
Let me just tell you,
Mr. President?
they built cages. You know, they used to say, I built the cages, and then they had a picture in a certain newspaper, and it was a picture of these horrible cages, and they said, look at these cages. President Trump built them, and then it was determined they were built in 2014. That was him.
Let me ask you a follow-up
Kristen,
question.
they did it. We changed the policy.
Your response
they
to that?
They did it. We changed.
Did not
They built the
separate
cages.
the-
Who built the cages, Joe?
Let's talk about what
Who
we're
built the
talking about.
cages,
Let's
Joe?
talk about what we're... It's criminal.
Let me ask
Kristen,
you
I will
about
say this.
immigration.
They went
10
down. We
seconds, and
brought
then I need to ask
reporters,
you.
everything. They are so well taken care of. They're in facilities that were so clean.
But some
that
of them
gotten
haven't been
such good-
reunited
But
with their
just ask
families.
one question. Who built the cages? I'd love you to ask him that. Who built the cages?
Let me ask about your immigration policy, Mr. Vice President. The Obama administration did fail to deliver immigration reform, which had been a key promise during the administration. It also presided over record deportations as well as family detentions at the border before changing course. So why should voters trust you with an immigration overhaul now?
Because we made a mistake. It took too long to get it right. It took too long to get it right. I'll be president of the United States, not vice president of the United States. We owe them. We owe them.
President
Kristen,
Trump,
he
your
had
reaction.
8 years to do what he said he was going to do. And I've
We
changed
did.
without having a specific. We got rid of catch and release. We got rid of a lot of horrible things that they put in and that they lived with. But he had 8 years he was vice president. He did nothing except build cages to keep children in.
A response,
So
30
important.
seconds, and then we'll move
It just shows that he has no understanding of immigration or the laws. Catch and release is a disaster. A murderer would come in, a rapist would come in, a very bad person would come in. We would take their name. We have to release them into our country. And then you say they come back. Less than 1% of the people come back. We have to send ICE out and Border Patrol out to find them. We would say, come back in 2 years, 3 years. We're going to give you a court case. You need Perry Mason. We're going to give you a court case. When you say they come back, they don't come back, Joe.
Yeah.
They never come back. Only the really, I hate to say this, but those with the lowest IQ, they might come back.
Okay,
But they're
President
very,
Trump, let's
very
give
few.
Vice President Biden a chance to respond, and then we're going to move on to the
You
next
don't know
section.
the law, Joe.
Vice President Biden, your response.
Know the law. What he's telling you is simply not true.
Well, check it out. They don't come back.
Check it out.
All right, let's move on.
But we don't have to
the
worry
next
about it because they
section.
terminated it, so we don't have to worry about it.
One thing that he really, really needed to do was say, because he said, hey, they came over with coyotes and cartels, so we have to keep them there until we can find their parents. So, of course, the leftards, libtards lose their freaking minds and say, how is a coyote carrying a whole person across the border? And because these liberal idiots don't understand that a coyote is like a evil Sherpa. They're a person that brings a person illegally across the border from Mexico to America because it's treacherous and people die, and the coyotes leave them out there to die. Sometimes the coyotes take all their money and purposely lead them out in the nowhere and let them die. So you got all these leftards, libtards saying, oh, you know, President Trump doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. He thinks that these little tiny dogs, these little tiny coyotes are bringing illegals across the border. That's not the way it works. But he really missed the chance to say the only reason that those 500 plus children are sitting on the border is because we instituted something called a DNA match, where if the person bringing these children across the border was not a DNA match as a relative, we deport the adults and we keep the child until we can find their parents, because it is better to keep 499 children at the border waiting for a DNA match for a parent than it is to let one child through to be raped and molested for the rest of her life. President Trump totally missed that opportunity. I was screaming it at my computer. I'm like, yes, tell him the reason that they're there is because we'd rather hold 400 of them than let one through to be raped and abused for her entire life. And the reason that they're sitting there is because these children, 99.999% of the time, were either abducted or kidnapped or came across with maybe a stepfather to where they thought it was going to be okay. Maybe the mom's already here. Maybe it wasn't nefarious, but it certainly wasn't legal. And maybe the mom's afraid that if she goes and collects her child, that she'll be deported because she's here illegally. The bottom line is, it's better to have 500 children stuck on the border being cared for better than they were anywhere else in the world than for them to be raped and trafficked. And unfortunately, President Trump missed his chance on that. I think I droned on about that more than the amount of time that he would have been allotted without being interrupted 1,500 times. The other thing that he did really well, President Trump did really well, was he explained to Joe, he's like, hey Joe, everything that you're saying that you would do about COVID is what I'm already doing. And as a matter of fact, if you were president, we'd be 2 months behind where we are now. You would have waited 2 more months to close the borders. Joe Biden, you know how Joe Biden loves to say, well, if Donald Trump would have just closed the borders 1 week earlier, we could have saved 30,000 lives. Okay, maybe. But if Joe Biden was president, he would have waited 6 weeks, 8 weeks after. So that would have been an extra 200, 300, 400,000 people by Joe Biden's weird-ass math calculations. Then he says he's against fracking. He's going to end fracking. He's going to end the oil industry. And he offers no solutions. So everybody in Pennsylvania, kiss your jobs goodbye. Have you people in Texas, kiss your jobs goodbye. Oklahoma, Joe Biden is the only vice president in history to open up the Arctic to drilling. So all of you in Alaska, who you all vote Republican anyway, but Joe Biden opened up the Arctic to drilling, destroying Alaska. The Democrat Party is completely taking the black vote for granted. So I implore you, Californians, please, if you haven't voted already, vote either for President Trump or for some other party, or don't vote for Biden. Democrats have taken your vote for granted for so long. Like I said, how many Biden bumper stickers have you seen? How many Biden lawn signs have you seen? How many Biden banners? How many Biden commercials have you seen? You know, it's absolutely ridiculous. I see way more Trump everything, Trump this, Trump that. President Trump wants your vote. He's done more for the black community than any other president since Lincoln. And I did think that it was funny that Joe Biden's like, oh yeah, Abraham Lincoln over here. I'm like, oh, if they would call him Orange Man Bad Lincoln instead of Abraham Lincoln. I thought that would have been hilarious. But it's true. Under Biden, largest number of black men incarcerated in history. Under President Trump, largest number of black men employed in history. President Trump is trying to get a bill passed for $500 billion earmarked just for inner city small business loans, which is predominantly going to go to black men, the black community. Of course, inner cities, also it's going to go to Hispanics too, but predominantly black folks. He's been working with Ice Cube to get the platinum deal, a contract with black America. And what did the libtards do? They call Ice Cube and Uncle Tom. Are you out of your rabbit ass minds? Do you know who Ice Cube is? He was one of the founders of NWA. Come on, folks. As Joe likes to say, come on, man. How in the hell are you going to call Ice Cube Uncle Tom? Because he wants to work with President Trump to make his community better. He tried to work with the Kamala campaign and also with Joe Biden. He tried. They didn't want nothing to do with him. They're like, come and see us after we're elected. So I have to give you my vote before you do anything for me. That's not the way the voting works. The way voting works is you promise me something in return for my vote. You promise to make my community better, you got my vote. It's not vote for me and then we'll talk about it later. I want to hold you to something. I want to be able to say, hey, look, I voted for you. 4 years later, you still haven't stuck up to your end of the bargain. That's all they care about. They just want power. They take your vote for granted. So, if I was a Democrat, I'm a libertarian, but if I was a Democrat and I lived in California, I either wouldn't vote, I'd vote for Trump, I'd vote for somebody else. To send a direct message to the Democrats. You don't get my vote for free. You have to help me. You have to help my community. California is the 5th largest economy in the world. We have the largest number of homeless people. Largest amount of debt. How on earth is that possible? They want to charge us 62%. That's why 50 Cent's like, fuck Biden and his 62% tax. Which is why Chelsea Handler's calling him not black with that TDS. Anyway, that's kind of my political rant. I think Trump obviously won the debate. Californians, please don't let the Democrats keep taking your vote for granted. Get something in return. Let's recall Gavin Newsom. I'm all for that. I hope that you have a wonderful weekend. I had a great day. I got to replace Mom's dishwasher, save her about $250. I'm going to drop it off over here at the recycle place. They're going to pull out any parts that are good. It's my local business. Drop it off with them. They'll take out whatever part's good. They'll build another dishwasher that they sell. So they're going to make money and doesn't cost me a dime. So anyway, life is good, everybody. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope that you had a wonderful weekend. And no matter who you vote for, just vote for President Trump. I will see you next time. Bye.